this is why I think U.S. politics is like so far behind, especially when it comes to electoral politics, because right now there's a lot happening, so much happening when it comes to Russia, China, and Africa, and the East. So, first of all, Erdogan was meeting with Mahmoud Abbas, the president of Palestine. That's happening. And then also there is the Russia Africa summit. It starts tomorrow, but there was a plethora of people already from Africa. There 49 out of 55 African delegations came. So 49 out of 55 countries sent delegations, and we know what delegations are. Now these delegations are basically made up of politicians, foreign ministers, prime ministers, and such. And so that they were all arriving today and the day before. And so RT got to interview several people. Nelson Mandela's granddaughter. They interviewed the prime minister. I'm sorry, the foreign minister of South Africa, and the prime minister had also arrived. Putin spoke with the prime minister of Ethiopia, and he spoke with Dilma Rousseff, and we reported on that today. I got to report on it live, and Dilma Rousseff is important because Dilma Rousseff is she was formerly charged and jailed, and she was the former president of Brazil, and she is now the president of the New Development Bank of BRICS. It's basically the Bank of BRICS. And so this is a tweet from Brian, and he said, BRICS Bank, can you go up? BRICS Bank President Dilma Rousseff is in St. Petersburg, Russia today, giving a speech at the second summit of Russia-Africa, the Economic and Humanitarian Forum, and meeting bilaterally with Russian President Putin and South African President Cyril Ramaphosa. And so she was there, and she did meet with Putin. She was supposed to also meet with Cyril Ramaphosa. And if you scroll down on the next one, I want to, I think, highlight the second tweet. The New Development Bank's press release states, the purpose of both bilateral meetings is to ascertain the views of both member countries regarding the role of the NDB in the upcoming BRICS summit. Any speculations concerning the discussion of new operations of NBD in Russia are unfounded, meaning that they're not going to go against sanctions and open something in Russia, but they were talking about this new currency that BRICS wants to develop. And we've been talking about this currency for days now. This new type of BRICS currency is going to be gold-backed currency. And I did a panel with several people, and that was the main issue that we spoke about, where this gold-backed currency is important because unlike the United States dollar, that is really not backed by anything except, as we jokingly say, a gun and oil perhaps, and that is slowly not holding up much longer, with Saudi Arabia trading with other large powers like Russia and China, and really opening the doors with Iran and Syria. This will be backed by gold, and so they're also looking to divert away from SWIFT, meaning to find a new monetary mechanism to use instead of SWIFT. And this is something that Dilma Rousseff's country of Brazil, via Lula, have been pushing. Remember, Lula has been pushing the Mercosur, this new type of money in Latin America. So I just want to highlight Dilma Rousseff because she is pretty awesome. She was jailed under the Brazil military dictatorship. The meme says, or the picture says, judges cover their face for the cameras during the trial of young revolutionary Dilma Rousseff in 1970. She was tortured for 22 days and is now the president of BRICS Bank, meaning the New Development Bank. So she really has come a long way.
I was, as she was coming out of that one event we saw, I got to shake her hand as she was coming out.
Oh, did you?
Pretty cool.
Yeah,
I did. That was like awesome. I knew she was.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
She was also removed. by lawfare as well, from Brazil. Remember, she also served as, I believe, prime not for, she served under, I forget what position. I think it was Secretary of State or something like that. Secretary of something under the, or Foreign Minister, I believe, under Lula's first presidency. And then she was an advisor to Lula during his second run as well. So she's been around for a while, and she actually described herself as a socialist. But the reason the BRICS thing is so big is because South Africa, India, Russia, China, and I said India, are a part of BRICS, and more countries are wanting to join BRICS, as we said the other day. So the Russia Africa Summit is really going to center a lot around the the African and the Russian sort of contingent of BRICS. It's going to center around trade, economic development, and it's going to center around Africa leaving behind, as the South African foreign minister said, its colonial past, meaning when she gave this interview to RT, she basically focused on saying Africa is trying to get over that and move forward and really become independent, have their own currencies, have their own national sovereignty. These are things that we highlight when we go to Latin America, but Africa, the same thing is happening, and we're seeing this happen too when it comes to the multipolar world. This is the second time this summit will happen, and 1 month from now will be the main BRICS summit in Johannesburg, South Africa. So this is kind of like a precursor to the main summit that will take place. And yeah, I have a couple of other tweets, but basically just pictures of these people arriving, and the whole topic was, Africa having independence from the West, and a lot of people who came on to do interviews were really passionate about that, saying, the United States has tried to impose this unilateral neo-colonial policy on Africa, and we're just not going to tolerate it anymore, and so on and so forth. So there's the delegation from the African countries that arrived to St. Petersburg. You can just play the video and I'll talk through it, because there's just St. Petersburg is about, I would say, like 4.5 hours from Moscow. It's north. It's obviously close to the
Have you been there yet, fam?
yeah, I've been to St. Petersburg. And Don, our friend Don is there. He's one of the ones that's there on the ground right now. And the summit officially starts tomorrow. Tomorrow I work at night here, which will be morning for you guys. So I'll be around for you guys to fill you in on pretty much everything that goes on. But Putin has been really adamant about developing more relationships, especially because Russians don't get to really go that many places, and Africa is one of the places where they can go without a visa or without much issue. So there he is. I believe that's with the Prime Minister of Ethiopia, if I'm not mistaken. So and there's that meeting, and they
So it's so beautiful.
They really just talked about economic development, and the Ethiopian Prime Minister received 50 documents that Putin wanted him to look over, talking about economic partnerships and so on and so forth. So another thing that Africa always mentions is how the West has used the environmental issue to pretty much make it so they're not allowed to use certain energy sectors, while Europe and the United States get to do that and then talk about how green they are. So that's a huge issue that Africa is not happy about with the West. But they always highlight that they want to work with the West, they want to work with Russia, they want to work with everybody, but they want to work in an equitable way and not in a way where they're told what to do. And that was just the overall premise, multipolarity, multilateralism, independence from the West. And that sentiment is growing and growing every day. I mean, 49 out of 55 countries is a huge amount. That's almost everybody. And that's in spite of U.S. sanctions. That's in spite of the U.S., going after them and saying you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't be meeting with Russia. They're going to do what is best for them, and that's all people want to do. We hear this from Nicaragua to Venezuela to Cuba to Colombia to wherever Honduras to wherever we go in the global South. And
But
I
don't
do
think for
want
one
to fix
second, fam, that don't think for one second that the WEF is going to just stand still and take it lying down. You can count on their
no.
fuckery as Africa gets closer to Russia. We see this all the time now. Africans, holding up Russian flags. They much rather do business with the Russians, the Chinese, than do business with the West. And the West, the psychos we have in charge, you can count on them to do something, to react like a petulant child. And fight back, demonize, go crazy. I was always worried about the Grand Renaissance Dam that was funded mostly by the Chinese, owned by the Ethiopians, was going to be bombed by the Egyptians, who were such in bed with the West. It hasn't happened yet, but these are things that I always have on my mind that scare me. And they'll find ways to demonize, the nations that don't play along and go along with the West.
Yeah, no, and they will, and they'll continue to do it. But I do think that with BRICS, you have China there, and you have more people wanting to be a part of BRICS more than the G7 countries. So I think it's a done deal in terms of the dollar's dominance. I would say it's not going to happen overnight, and this is something everybody says, and I agree with. It's not going to happen overnight. It's not like tomorrow or a few months from now we're going to wake up and the dollar's just going to like disappear. That's not what's going to happen. But what is going to happen is it's no longer going to be the only currency. And I think that's what a lot of these countries are looking forward to, because they can benefit from being able to use their own currencies. And they don't really benefit from using the dollar. So that's something. And here's a little snippet of what was said between Vladimir Putin and Dilma Rousseff. And we can just we can hear this as well, and mostly read it, because it's kind of hard to hear because there's translations going on between Portuguese and Russian, and that's a whole other thing.
Obrigado. You want to read it, fam?
He said, using your rich experience in public work and knowledge in this area, you will do everything to help us develop. In today's conditions, it is not easy to do, given what is happening in the field of finance and the use of the dollar as an instrument of political struggle. This is Putin saying that. So Putin, one of the things Putin highlighted was that the dollar is used. The other translation that we had was the dollar is used as a political tool, a political weapon. And it is. I mean, we've talked about it before, right? We say the dollar is backed by a gun, right? Like that's what it's backed by. Yeah. And tanks, yeah. So that's basically it. That's a precursor to tomorrow, and what's going to happen tomorrow.